Hi guys, welcome. If you're new here, welcome back. This is the second time I'm doing the recording for this podcast, for this episode. I'm sorry. I did the first one na nika make sure what is it called? Nime save vizuri and I made sure it was okay. Shock on me when I went to upload napata it's 0. Like I've saved the name, I've saved everything, but hakuna any recording. I don't know what happened. But anyhow, so we have to redo it. Yeah. So welcome to the Y.A.N.G podcast. I'm your host Hannah, and today I wanted to address a topic that is a bit far from what I've been discussing on this podcast, but it's equally important, and that is the trivialization of fundamental social issues. And this topic is something that came to me because I've been listening to a lot of American media, Western media sana, and sometimes I don't think some of these people that have these positions to talk about these matters realize how privileged they are that they're able to talk about these different things, and then wanaitrivialize, wanaifanya ikawe kiutoto. So at the end of the day you find that it doesn't really work out. Like at the end of the day they do more harm than they do good. So in today's episode we are unpacking the crucial social movements, that is gender identity, the Redpill community that is dying thankfully, and the women empowerment. These issues are being trivialized by the very communities that should have been advocating for them. By that, what do I mean? When it comes to the gender identity, the beginning of it, the beginning, the beginning of it was something that was needed, like something that a lot of people in the LGBTQ community needed to tackle it, so that like it was something that was a conversation that was needed, so that these people can have their rights also and be addressed as human beings, especially in every other country, but especially in the West where they are. So unapata, so far we've been having the same people in these same communities. They're the ones that are over trivializing this entire movement and making it a turn off for a lot of people. And we've seen the effects of this when it comes to the US, where they are now making a conscious decision to stop the conversation about gender identity. They want to ban it from schools, they want to ban it from even the law itself. Unapata states that initially were not opposed necessarily to the gender identity issues. Nowadays, they are being very strict. Unapata a lot of leaders are turning around and saying this has to stop. We need to stop this conversation because imefanywa inakaa utoto. So even the what is it called? The fire that the gay people, the lesbians had in the 70s and 80s when they were pushing for them to even have the right to marry whoever they loved. Saizi unapata that fire imeisha tu kabisa. Even the people in these same communities, they don't want to be a part of it anymore. Unapata some of these famous people who are openly gay wanasema kabisa, we are not part of this movement. Like this gender identity issue is not part of us. So like you understand how it's being trivialized. From the self-identifying trans people to the alpha male podcasters and privileged women from the first world countries, these important movements have become oversimplified or distorted. Unapata sasa when I'm talking about the women in who are at the forefront of I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. Unapata women ndio wako at the forefront ya turning around the female empowerment ama the women empowerment movement. They are the ones that are saying, especially in those Western countries, they're the ones that are saying, no, women should not vote, women should not do this, women are too emotional to do the next thing. When they don't even realize that I think third of the world is still struggling with these issues. Like they don't realize how privileged they are when they're saying these things. And every time I've been listening to these Kina Piers Morgan and Ninis or types of interviews, you leave the interview wondering, are these the people that are supposed to be smarter than the rest of us? Because it make any sense? It doesn't make any sense. In this episode, I'm going to share my perspective as a woman from a third world country, and I'm hoping we're going to have a general conversation with this. So why the reason today I wanted to kabisa to stand on this topic is because in as much as we would like to not end up where they are, au ndio wako mbele, like they're the first world countries, which means if we don't learn from their issues, if we don't learn from the things that they're doing, we're really not going to avoid the mistakes that they've made. Like we're going to repeat everything that they're doing, and eventually we'll find ourselves just doing a lot of zero work. And we've seen even the effects of these red pill communities in our countries, especially in a country like Kenya. Unapata the femicide issue has gone up. Like it has really gone up, where people can just kill, or rather men can just kill women for nothing. Like it doesn't matter what is happening. Wamekuwa so poisoned and so programmed by this red pill community that they don't see women as people of value. Wanaona tu kama hao ndio wamewakatizia to enjoy their lives. So unapata at the end of the day, they're taking out their anger on women. So we're seeing these effects on on third world countries. So the topic for today, the trivialization of fundamental societal issues. And today I'm dealing with gender identity, I'm dealing with women empowerment, and I'm going to deal with the red pill community. So let's start with the gender identity. And on this one, the people that are trivializing it, and this is something I started saying kitambo too. Like sometimes you can see when someone is about to make a mistake, and you're like, should I talk? Should I say anything? And the people who tried talking, the people who tried to share their own perspective on these things, they were cancelled, they were bullied off social media, they were blamed, they were called homophobic, but they were saying the things that we were not saying. So the first topic ni the trivialization of gender identity by the trans activists. And by this, I don't mean every trans person is doing this. I just mean the activists who are going out of their way to do the things that I'm going to mention under this one. And the first one is the lack of nuance. In the past decade, the conversation around gender identity has exploded, especially in Western cultures. While this has brought the much needed visibility to the LGBTQ plus community, it has also led to the oversimplification and misunderstanding even within the community itself. Trivialization by trans identifying people, unfortunately, up until it becomes a sour subject, because even when I was researching this topic, unaambiwa your content is inaitwaje, it is going against the social guidelines za social media, and you're like, okay, I'm trying to do research on this. So anyway, this when we look at the trans identifying activists, unfortunately it is the subset within the trans community that it may trivialize it has made the struggles of these people with true gender identity crisis to become something that is very nonsensical. Let me use that, nonsensical. Some individuals, particularly those who are relatively privileged, make casually adopt a gender or transgender identity or fluid gender identity without fully grappling with the deep personal, social, and medical challenges faced by those people whose identities have questioned or have been questioned or suppressed by people their entire lives. Ukiangalia on this topic, you find that these people, when you are gonna privilege, whatever they want to do, all they need to do is to wake up today and decide, I will identify as a woman. Na hii subset may cause a lot of chaos because they're the ones who are pushing for these things to be discussed in schools. They're the ones who are saying we're coming for your kids. They're the ones like anyone who wants to escape anything can just identify as a woman and say, I need the privileges of women. And say, ukiangalia even women ourselves, we don't have so much privilege. We don't have so much privilege for them to come and not even privilege. We don't have so much rights for them to come and say that whatever little you have, I need it. Like we're still trying to get ourselves to the point where we're being recognized as people, as a people. And these people are coming to take advantage of that. And then unapata the trivialization for me, it gets to the point where when it comes to sports, when it comes to safe spaces for women, when it comes to things of that nature, and then there's this group of men who are identifying as women that they want to come and take up that space. I look at them na side eyes because I'm like, are you paid agents of chaos? I mean, don't you realize what you're doing? Because the minute you start making enemies in this movement, the minute people are going to turn around and say, no, like you've come too much, you need to step back. And a lot of people are doing that right now. Unapata sasa, it is open season on trans people and in affect people with real problems. The thing that with this activists, unapata, they do a lot of performative activism. They don't care about the gender identity activism. They don't they don't want to be a part of it. They actually want to destroy it. They just want to be part of a rhetoric of being right or validated in their identity rather than engaging in a deeper conversation about the societal, legal, and medical challenges facing marginalized trans people. By this, what do I mean? Unaona, if you go back in history, it has been captured in movies, it has been captured in books, it has been captured in a lot of things. And you look at the gay movement specifically and how they handled their issues and how they got a lot of their their needs legalized. They went about it in a very diplomatic way. Of course, they did the mandamanos, they did the marches, they did a lot of the pride walks and things of that sort to get their voices heard, but they went about it the right way. These people, this subset of people, does not care about all of that. They when you look at the gay movement specifically, they never wanted to be necessarily the center of attention. They just wanted basic human rights. But unapata this subset of trans people, they want to be the center of attention. They want people to be the ones looking at them. And then they jumped on this wagon when ilikuwa, no matter what you said at the time, it was you're victim shaming, you're doing something wrong, you're being homophobic, you get cancelled. And that power, I think that power is what attracted them to this movement. They're just agents of chaos because either way they don't care about the movement itself. So, unapata for many in the like people like us in the global south, trans identity is a dangerous and often unspoken topic. Before we even go to the trans identity, even being gay, being a lesbian in a third world country is not something that is celebrated or even tolerated. Like this is something that can get you killed. So when I say people going out of their way to walk into women's bathroom just like the way you were born, you've chosen to wear lipstick and a wig on top of your head, but you're still a man. You still have a beard. And you're walking naked in front of young women. Like this, you're just asking for trouble. Like you're just asking for issues. And trivializing these issues by reducing them to catchphrases and oversimplified arguments, like you want to be part of a community that is already marginalized, and you're doing the marginalizing. Because the minute you step in something like the sports, women's sports na nini, as a man identifying as a woman, you're pushing out the women. So itakuwaga tu men's category and a men's category, because now there won't be any women there. And I know people might think it's offensive for someone to say someone who is identifying as a trans woman is a man. I'm talking about those people. Those people who have not done anything to try and change their appearance or their privilege or the power that they have over women, because they're built in a different way. Men are built better than women. They're built to survive a lot of things better than women. So if you've not done anything to change that, and we have our own athletes in Kenya who cannot even compete, and they're females just because you are gonna a little bit higher testosterone than other women, but you can have an entire man join the women's sports, just because they woke up today and said they identify as a woman. Like for me, hiyo inafanya nione to these people just want to cause chaos, and they want to cause chaos for the wrong community. Because at the end of the day, the community that is going to lose is them, not everyone else. They are the minority bado, so not everyone else is going to lose. Trans women are often women, for example, is not even like the trivialization and oversimplification of arguments. I mentioned earlier, some people will choose to get offended by someone saying these are men identifying as women. Like that is not even the point. Like that is the definition of being a trans woman. It's a man who is identifying as a woman. But utapata will have an entire 4-hour debate on television of how offensive it is for someone to say that is a man identifying as a woman. Like they'll trivialize and focus on that small phrase rather than the bigger issue. It doesn't, like they don't take into account the deep cultural barriers and potential violence that many individuals and activists wa kitambo have gone through in their countries before they came along. In our reality, in our third world countries, the struggle is not simply about identifying, it's about survival. So you find a lot of people with these issues will suppress them, will not even talk about them. You'll find a man who looks like a woman, and maybe akona the figures and everything for a woman, but you can't even have that conversation with that person, because the minute they start showing some sort of behavior towards anything, it becomes a threat to their life. But utapata someone somewhere in a privileged country will trivialize this to the point where like inaacha hata kuwa an important social issue. And this is very fundamental, because it is affecting a lot of people in a lot of ways, because these people need to be part of the society. They need to be acknowledged as human beings. But the minute you start antagonizing people, the minute you start putting children in danger, inakuwa something else. It becomes something else, and it becomes something that a lot of people will fight against. So the consequences of this trivialization, one, we've seen it, the dangerous simplifications. By trivializing the nuances of gender identity, the conversation becomes detached from the lived realities of people suffering, especially in countries where basic human rights are still something they're fighting for. Discussions that focus purely on individual rights, while important, should not ignore the larger structural issue. And this is what I'm saying. These are people who just want attention. Because you're making it a very small, like it's a very part of the conversation. someone will take a very small part of that conversation and focus on it, and it's the part that has the least objection. But the bigger issue, the discussion for women's spaces, the discussion for women's sports, they don't want to tackle that because no one wants to get cancelled. The second one is disparities, transgender activism, and economic disparities. The West focus on individual self-expression often ignores the fact that in less developed regions, the concept of gender identity itself may be seen as a luxury. These people, when you wanna that choose to do this, they choose to do it from a very privileged uh, point or perspective. And why do I say this? They don't realize some of the things that they push for cost people a lot of money, and to the point where they cost them their lives. By costing them a lot of money, what do I mean? When they say they're coming for your children, they want to influence your children, and then they push for children being transitioned, and then you come to realize that the minute you start the transition journey, it's not something that you're ever going to stop. It's something that you will keep doing until the day that you die. Like, hakuna point utafika you say, I'm finally here. You need medical surgery, what? You need constant to be on constant medication to be able to maintain some of the things that you want to identify as. And if you don't do that, your body starts reverting to its normal self. So unapata they don't realize the damage that they're doing on the psychology of these people. And you find recently there are people who are trying to detransition, and it has become a problem already. Like imekuwa ni shida bado. They can't do that safely. So, in countries where LGBTQ individuals face discrimination, abuse, and legal hurdles, these oversimplified discussions may not offer the solidarity or solutions that they are needed. It is, for me, I think people, in conclusion to this topic, I think people in the trans community need to hold their members accountable. When someone is doing a lot of nothing or a lot of damage to your own movement, you need to turn around and tell them, this is a movement that did not start in the 21st century. This is a movement that started years and years before you're probably born. So don't come here to bring damage to it. Like these people, you need to tell them, like, you're doing more damage. Step back. Step back and let us handle this. Because I think the amount of damage they've done to this movement can only be realized in the next few years. And by then, I think it is going to be already too late. So let me go to the next, the next topic. And that one was the Red Pill community. This Red Pill community, the origins ilikuwa a movement that was a reaction against perceived feminist overreach. This was I don't think it was necessarily a negative thing, because back then ulikuwa unapata a lot of people saying women have been too empowered, women have been too this, too that, the boy child is forgotten. And for someone like me, I was like, if this movement is going to keep the boy child on the same pace as the girl child, I don't mind it. But what these people, a subset of these people, have done to the Red Pill community imefanya, in the last few years, a lot of people have stepped back from it. They don't want to identify with that movement anymore. The origins ilikuwa hiyo. They were presenting itself as a critique of modern gender dynamics. It has drawn attention to issues like the Manosphere, relationship dynamics, and the supposed disenfranchisement of men in contemporary society. The shift to oversimplified ideas. Like, the purpose of the movement when it started, I don't think it was a negative thing. It was a much needed thing. But they let in a lot of people who say a lot of things but don't say anything at all. These people came in and trivialized the message. Like I say, the beginning of this movement was to keep the boy child on the same pace as the girl child. And for them, they felt like they were fighting against over empowerment, yeah, feminism. I don't think women have been over empowered. I don't even think we've been empowered enough. But for this movement, the purpose of it, Aikua, it wasn't to do damage necessarily. They just wanted to have the boy child be as empowered as the girl child. They didn't want the boy child to be forgotten. But they let in a segment of people when they are I think the boy child that was forgotten, that they're illiterate, they don't think beyond their noses, and they don't even, you can't even have a deep discussion with these people in this manosphere, because some of the things that they say, inakuwa tu ukifikiria like, who gave birth to you? Who raised you? Because the things that you're saying, you're talking like someone who has only half your brain, not the full brain. It ushered in like the trivialization and the shift to oversimplified ideas, and it was mostly for clickbaits. It ushered in the alpha male podcasters who presented themselves as experts on masculinity and dating. These podcasters often simplify complex social issues into a series of easy answers, clickbaity answers, and wanazitaga sound bites. Yeah, something that will trend on social media. So they don't even need to say anything or have a response to an actual fundamental problem. They just need to say something that will get a reaction from social media so that they can trend for however long they're going to trend. And what this did, it not only led to harm, like the purpose wasn't only to harm women, but it also set men up for failure by encouraging unhealthy relationship dynamics. They went out of their way to make they went out of their way to try and make women undesirable, and what they ended up doing is making men the undesirable people. Them are the undesirable target. And by that, what do I mean? Currently, we have people or men in this community that are looking back at the years. I was reading a comment the other day, and someone said I stumbled upon the Redpill community about 4 years ago, and when I started listening to some of the things that they were saying, it made me improve myself. It made me get into working out, getting a job, and started dressing better, not letting myself go. It gave me a lot of confidence. But in the recent years, it has made me realize just how much undesirable some of the things that I used to say back then zilikuwa, and how stupid he looked to the people that he was trying to have these conversations with. Remember, they're trying to fight against a woman who has been empowered, according to them, who has been educated. So when this woman is trying to have a conversation with you, and all you can do is shout, zinaitwaje hizo sound bites from the alpha male podcaster that you listen to, you're not having a conversation with this person. This person is having a conversation with the echoes of these people that you're listening to. You're not exposing your mind to a lot of things. Their philosophy about relationship and the dynamics in relationship ignored deeper social critiques of toxic masculinity, and instead focused on the revenge against women. And this is what I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast. Their need for revenge, I'm fighting against women, it has made a lot of men who identify as incels hate women to the point where they're becoming a threat to women. Like if a woman tells you no, that is a problem. If a woman looks at you sideways, that is a problem. And it's not a problem that you can just mention and say, hey, I don't think you're being nice. I don't think you're doing this the right way. It's a problem that these men think that they can get rid of by killing the person. And that's why you've seen in recent years a lot of women have lost their lives to these men, the effects of this red pill community. In third world countries, especially, men often face systemic challenges, economic hardships, limited access to education, political corruption, it is etc. etc. To focus on trivial solutions like become an alpha or never show weakness ignores the broader issues that men have. Like currently we still have men who are struggling with a lot of things. And something that I think need a bigger or a deeper discussion is men struggling with the what it means to be a man in a modern world, because a lot of men kitu yenye ilifanya wa for the boy child to be left behind, the people that were advising them, raising these men, they were still raising them to be traditional men. But a lot of men currently are struggling with what is their place in this modern society. And instead of these alpha people try to explain to them that the dynamics have changed, women do not necessarily need to rely on you. The woman does not, by the woman I mean the quote unquote empowered woman, does not need to rely on you for you to feel masculine. You need to come to her when you're already masculine, because she can already take care of a lot of things. The traditional man was empowered by his need, being needed by the people around him. But currently unapata that is not the case. And it's not that women decided to wake up one day and decide we're not going to need men anymore. It was born of a lot of trauma and a lot of mistreatment of women by the same men. So women decided to become empowered. Women decided they needed to have their own footing. So the struggle currently, from my perspective and from what I've seen in the society, is for men to find their space in this modern world, because the world is modern. We're not going to go back. We're not going to have traditional women so that men can feel comfortable. They need to, like this red pill community should have been able to let men know that they are still important in this modern society and they need to modernize their way of thinking. But what these alpha males did need to turn around and keep saying, you need to revenge on women. Like their biggest point here, this subset of alpha, or quote unquote alpha men, was to turn around and make the woman the villain of the story. And that was not the target of the red pill community. The red pill community was to make men their center of attention, and not to turn around and make women audio the problem. So I think the over trivialization, especially kwa podcasts, imeifanya the entire community to lack meaning anymore. I think I've rambled on for that one long enough. The last point was the disconnect between Western feminism and global feminism. By this one, what do I mean? Women in the Western communities, especially, I know when you're already there stewing in the privilege of being an empowered woman, and what they've come to, what they've turned it around to be, is the they look for clickbait topics or clickbait responses to critical issues. When you find someone like Anito Parley Davis saying that women should not be allowed to vote, women should not be allowed to lead, women should not be allowed to do this or that, and she's saying that from the comfort of her own company, you start wondering, what do these people realize that they are doing more damage to the global feminism movement? These people have ignored global inequalities. They they don't see further from their noses, honestly. They don't see that majority of women in the world are still being mistreated, are still do not still have their rights. And they're busy saying that the little rights that we have here and there, they should be taken away. Empowerment campaigns in the West often fail to address the intersection of gender with issues of class, race, and geography. Women in third world countries are not only fighting for gender equality, but are also battling against poverty, lack of health care, child marriage, and extreme forms of violence. So the little that we have, the little that is allowed, like being able to vote for a woman to fight for women issues, and this is a topic for another day, but being allowed to have a voice, these people are saying it should be taken away. So you start wondering, what is wrong with these women? What is wrong? Like this subset of women in a over trivialize how important the global feminism movement is in favor for trending online, going viral. Yet the dominant narrative in their discussion often focuses on relatively minor issues, like when they're discussing about women issues, they have to trivialize it. They have to make women the villain of these situations. When she was discussing something to do with children, and why they often, when divorce happens, children are often left with the woman, sorry, it made me realize that this person was so ignorant, because according to the law itself, children are left with the primary caregiver, not the not just any parent, the primary caregiver. And most often than not, men, especially in African community, they don't even know the names of their children. They don't even know the birthdays of their children. Like, they don't know the most basic things about their children. So when you say you just leave your kids, you should just leave your kids with a man, you're like, or you should just not divorce. Divorce should not be a right. And then this person that got divorced, when he alikuwa stupid, see, they know what they're doing. But according to her, divorce should not happen. Instead of these women in Western countries turning around and using their privilege to make sure that other communities, other countries are marching right behind them in trying to create a more inclusive society to truly empower women worldwide. Instead of doing that, they're turning around and saying, even these ones that we have, and then they're shouting it wakiwa kwa podcast zao. They're shouting it wakiwa with the same men that women were fighting for rights against. So unashindwa, are you so dumb? Are you so stupid that you don't realize what you're doing? Like, it's like a chicken ikiwa KFC, and then you're going there saying we should be killed more. We do not have right. We should not be allowed. And it raises a lot of questions. Then unapata some parts of the world, especially when women are poorer, these issues, let's say someone like me in this part of the world, when you're listening to these women have this type of discussions, it's a scary thing, because you do realize that it wasn't that long ago that even women, or children, especially young girls, couldn't even have access to education. And these are the people that are supposed to be representing women. This means that we need to start moving beyond the superficial empowerment and addressing the root causes of gender inequality, such as economic disenfranchisement, limited access to education, and the patriarchal structure. Oh, brother, Jesus. In conclusion, there is need for a deeper conversation. There is need for grounded conversations. There is need for people to discuss that real empowerment comes from understanding. Trivializing complex issues like gender identity, masculinity, and women's empowerment robs this movement of their power. It reduces them it reduces deeply nuanced struggles to sound bites and empty slogans, hindering real progress. Build solidarity, not oversimplification. And if you don't have anything important to say, don't say anything at all. Just like it's okay for you to be quiet. Let me just say that as a woman. Like it's a choice that people fought for to be heard, to be listened to. So it's okay. You have the choice to be quiet. And for these women, I feel like they also have the choice to go to the countries like that do not allow women to vote. Like you're rich, you can do that. You don't need to take the whole house down with you. You're not the captain of the Titanic. You don't need to sink with it. Just get out of there. Go to those countries that still do not allow their women to even drive. Like I think you'll be more comfortable there. Then, my general conclusion to this discussion is we need to hold each and every person accountable, especially in these different movements. For me, the movement that I feel more passionately for is the feminist movement, because there is still a lot to be done. There's still a lot to be achieved. So this is why I did this episode, because I'm trying to hold these women that don't realize just how badly they are doing accountable. So the people in the gender identity movement, the people in the Redpill movement, you need to turn around and hold your people accountable as well. And that is the end of this episode. Yeah, I think this was a bit far, but I needed to get it off because I was like, no, I'm not going to listen to another oversimplification or trivialized social issue. And then kwa those podcasts unapata tu wakiwa hapo wakiambiana tu yes. And like mkiwa combined all of you mko na akili tatu. Anyway, see you in the next one.